But as we've said to some extent already, yes, hobbits have virtues, but they're clearly not entirely virtuous. They're not something to be. They're something to kind of aspire towards in a way, but they're not somebody to imitate full stop. Which is another way
Yeah.
of saying they are good, but they are not utopian. And Tolkien would not
Yes.
have written them as a utopia.
And he
So,
outright in one of his letters said the hobbits are not meant to be utopian.
which is good.
The same man who said, I am a hobbit in all but size.
Which means he was a humble man and a good
Which basically means he's saying, yeah, hobbit ways are great and everything, and my ways are great and everything, but don't be like me.
one. No, I still have my problems. Let's not do that. And so, yeah, if we're gonna level this out, what are some of their vices?
The biggest one, which is one that is born, this isn't really as much of a vice as just a problem that arises from the same source as their rootedness, is that they don't really have vigilance or readiness for conflict of any kind, because they haven't needed to fight for the longest time. They have the Dunedain patrolling their borders, and they take care of basically every major threat, and there aren't really that many internal threats among the hobbits. They don't fight among each other. They're not so... they can become angry, but they're not so violent-tempered that it becomes a big issue. Like, Hobbiton and Mickle Delving are not going to go to war
Oh no.
with one another. Which, it's not that they're cowards or that they are pacifists, it's just that they just never needed to fight. So this one isn't really their fault. Completely. But Tolkien even describes that, the Thane of the Shire is the War Master. He keeps the spears, the weapons, and the armory.
Mhm.
But when the hobbits return and they have to have that great battle and free the Shire from Sharky and all of the ruffians, the weapons are kind of pathetic.
Yeah, I don't
that
have
they
much.
have. No hobbit sword has been drawn. No hobbit spear has been lifted, and no hobbit bow has been strung in centuries. So any weapons that are in the hobbit armory are just, well, they're basically disintegrated at this point.
Yep. The exceptions are they've been hung on a mantle or gifted as a madam, and that's about it.
Yes. Yeah, we don't really have that much purpose for this old sword, but it belonged to my ancestor, whose name may or may not be correct.
Oh,
That's
they
how
would
long
have,
ago it was. Who fought?
they would have it
Oh, that's
correct.
true. They have that. They have the correct name. It bought to such and such ancestor, and I can tell you all the details about it. But I'm certainly not going to use it.
Oh no.
No,
It would make me late for dinner.
battles are just as bad as adventures.
Uncomfortable business. Of a pokey sort.
Yeah, and why settle? Why settle with your fist something that can just as easily be solved over a mug of ale?
Yeah. No,
Which is a
it's-
point in their favor, actually.
if you can do it.
If you can, but that gets them into trouble because they are wary. They don't like conflict. They don't really want anything to do with conflict, and they ignore the outside world, which causes trouble. Now, it takes a long time for that trouble to really manifest fully.
Mm-hmm.
But not knowing what is happening in the Shire as a whole is what leads to the four hobbits having to free the Shire later on.
Not knowing what's going on outside the Shire, yeah.
Yeah.
No, some could say it's a... I'm going to read a couple passages from concerning hobbits to kind of illustrate this, because, yeah, it is a paradox. Tolkien says, nonetheless, ease and peace had left this people still curiously tough. They were, if it came to it, difficult to daunt or kill, and they were perhaps so unwearyingly fond of good things, not least because they could, when put to it, do without them, and could survive rough handling by grief, foe, or weather in a way that astonished those who did not know them well, or look no further than their bellies and their well-fed faces. Though slow to quarrel, and for sport killing nothing that lived, they were doughty at bay, and at need could still handle arms. They shot well with the bow, for they were keen-eyed and sure at the mark. not only with bows and arrows. If any hobbit stooped for a stone, it was well to quickly get under cover, as all trespassing beasts knew very well. Right, so wait, that's a people that still has it, right? That still has the spirit of being able to defend themselves should the need call upon it. And yet earlier on the same page, they say the hobbits named it their region a shire, and a district of well-ordered business, and there in that pleasant corner of the world they plied their well-ordered business of living. And they heeded less and less the world outside where dark things moved, until they came to think that peace and plenty were the rule in Middle-earth, and the right of all sensible folk. They forgot or ignored what little they had ever known of the Guardians, and of the labors of those that made possible the long peace of the Shire. They were, in fact, sheltered, but they had ceased to remember it.
They're sheltered and have no idea that they're sheltered.
Yeah. When you put it that way, sheltered and they have no idea that we're sheltered, like, none of us think about that and think about that as an enviable state. Like, oh no. we pity you after a fashion. Like, you don't really know certain things that you should know. But thinking that peace and plenty were the rule of all Middle-earth, so, yeah, that's just the way it is everywhere. And the right of all sensible folk, like, it should occur to you that not all people will be sensible.
It should, but it isn't, because all hobbits are sensible.
True, so in a certain sense, you're full of yourselves.
All hobbits are all people to us.
Yeah. And well, you're full of yourself.
If you don't know anything about another people, most of the time we assume that they are the same way we are. And then when they're not, it's a shock.
Well, yeah, and this is the same reason why we can't judge other people's by our own values, because they have different values.
It's not so much out of arrogance as it is out of ignorance.
Yeah, ignorance more so, because you have to be able to call to mind that you actually can't approach things this way. But it's why we talked about the humanist version of history in an earlier podcast. Like, it's the same thing. Like, you do need to care about what's going on outside your borders, and you need to care about the perspectives of the people that are outside your borders if you're going to understand deeper things about life, but also, what you should care about regarding your own defense.
Yeah, well, and care about them no more than you absolutely ought.
Mm-hmm. And so the hobbits are set up to fall victim to what happens to them in the Return of the King. Which is not, an army showed up on our door and conquered us. Although I guess that could have happened. But no, it's slow. I forget the details, but it's, Lotho Sackville Baggins has some dealings with ruffians and this and that, and some more of them.
Which it would be him.
Yeah. It's a slow infiltration of society and a slow imposition of rules and regulations, and things become tyrannical slowly. It is the frog in the pot of water that is slowly turning up to boiling.
Because people stop caring. Or because people don't care enough. Or they don't care the right way.
Yep. And like you mercifully said, they don't know to care. It is ignorance.
Because they don't know where this is going to lead. Because they don't see where it has led outside in other places.